The sky was clear that morning, no sign of danger or change. Earth's citizens went about their usual routines, unaware that everything was about to shift in an instant, without warning, without any sign that it was coming. A fleet of massive alien ships appeared hovering in Earth's atmosphere, as if from nowhere. They filled the sky so quickly that at first people thought it was some kind of strange weather event. But there were no clouds, no storms, just the unnatural shapes of those ships, casting shadows over the land. They were sleek and dark, almost like silhouettes against the blue of the sky, their edges sharp and intimidating, as if they were designed to strike fear into the heart of anyone who gazed upon them. World governments immediately went into high alert. What was happening? What did this mean? Was it an attack? Was it a warning? No one knew how to react to the sudden appearance of these ships. No one even knew who or what was inside them. But there was one thing they all agreed on: the sight was enough to make the most composed person feel a sense of dread creeping into their bones. Yet the aliens did not open fire. They did not immediately demand surrender or threaten to destroy the planet as many expected. Instead, they waited, hovering silently above cities across the globe. For several hours there was no communication, no signals, no attempts to interact. Earth's leaders scrambled to make contact. All attempts at reaching out to the ships were met with silence, and tension began to build. The uncertainty was worse than any attack. The world held its breath, waiting for something to happen. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, a message was broadcast to every television screen across the globe. It was a single alien voice, distorted and hard to understand at first. The voice seemed disinterested, almost casual in tone. The message was clear and yet baffling. "We have arrived. We will now begin the test." The message echoed across the airwaves, and then, as if on cue, the ships began releasing something small, glowing orbs that fell from the sky, slowly at first before gaining speed. They were not large, and they didn't look dangerous, but the sight of so many falling from above was enough to send people into a frenzy. The orbs struck the ground across the world, in cities and remote areas alike, and the result was immediate, but not what anyone expected. Instead of explosions or devastating impacts, the orbs touched the Earth and then began to pulse, a soft light emanating from them. And then the ground seemed to respond. The air changed, the sky itself shifted, as though the planet itself was reacting to the arrival of these strange invaders. It wasn't destruction that followed, but an overwhelming transformation. Trees began to grow rapidly, twisting into bizarre shapes. Flowers bloomed in colors that no one had ever seen before, and the air became thick with a strange scent, one that was both familiar and otherworldly. The ground itself started to warp into patterns and shapes unlike anything ever witnessed on Earth. The alien ships didn't move. They didn't give any sign of aggression. They just hovered, waiting, watching as the world around them changed slowly but undeniably. And for the first time in hours, the world paused, not in fear, but in wonder. What were they doing? What was the point of this strange act of transformation? As the strange glowing orbs continued to fall from the ships, it became clear that something much more peculiar was happening. The ground below trembled lightly with each impact, not from explosions, but from a deep shifting, as if the Earth itself was adjusting to some new rhythm. People wandered outside to witness the strange scene, their confusion turning into fascination as they saw entire blocks of cities transform before their eyes. Buildings melted into liquid forms that shimmered like metal flowing in the wind, while roads sprouted vibrant flowers that hummed with an unnatural energy. The world was turning into something entirely unfamiliar. Yet it wasn't dangerous, just strange. The first wave of orbs had scattered across major cities, touching down in random spots, causing an unpredictable mixture of effects. Some areas were untouched, as if the orbs simply passed by without effect, while others were completely transformed. Parks turned into jungles of crystal trees, and in some places, grass became soft, translucent fibers, glowing with an eerie blue hue. People didn't know whether to be terrified or amused by the sight. It was as if the planet had been turned into an artist's canvas, with paint splashes of bizarre creativity. The world's military forces went on high alert, yet there were no signs of a clear threat. No weapons fired, no demands issued, just a strange sense of silent observation. The alien ships continued their slow rotation above, And still, there was no word from them. Earth's leaders began their frantic efforts to make sense of what was happening. Messages flooded the airwaves, trying to calm the public, yet no one could offer answers. What was this? An experiment? A greeting? Or a trap? Meanwhile, the effects of the orbs seemed to grow more complex as time went on. Plants began to hum in unison, creating music that seemed to come from deep within the earth, and animals started to change, their features becoming more fantastical. Birds grew wings made of delicate metallic feathers that glittered in the sunlight, while even the smallest insects now had iridescent shells. Yet there was something even stranger about these changes. The animals and plants were not harming anyone. Instead, they seemed to coexist with the people who remained in the transformed areas, as if they were learning from one another. People marveled at how quickly they adjusted to the changes. In some regions, humans built homes out of the newly formed structures, taking advantage of the unexpected resources that the alien bombs had left behind. Others simply explored, fascinated by the new landscapes unfolding before them, each city becoming a living art piece, alive and breathing with an unfamiliar pulse. As the days passed, more and more orbs descended, their transformations becoming more complex. Some lands that were affected by the orbs began to shift in unpredictable ways, as if they were still changing and evolving. The sky itself seemed to alter in color, turning into brilliant hues of purple and gold that had never been seen in Earth's history. The world's scientists and engineers began working around the clock, trying to understand how these changes were happening and whether they could use the new phenomenon to their advantage. But the alien ships above remained silent, a haunting reminder that they were still watching. It was then that the true magnitude of the event hit Earth's population. These weren't just random bombs. They were tools of change, engineered to reshape the very fabric of the world. And though they were not causing death, the impact was still tremendous. Life on Earth would never be the same again. The question was no longer if Earth would survive the changes, but how would it adapt? The world was beginning to understand one simple fact. The alien presence, though confusing, was pushing humanity towards something much greater. But at what cost? The days after the bombs fell were filled with a strange, almost surreal quiet. Though the world had changed in ways no one could explain, the atmosphere remained oddly calm. The air was thick with the scent of unfamiliar flowers and the hum of newly formed creatures fluttering in the sky. People wandered through transformed cities, adjusting to the oddities that had taken root in the land, still uncertain whether they were witnessing a curse or a blessing. The world had become a canvas of wild colors and peculiar life forms, but no one truly understood why it was happening. Still, the aliens made no further contact. The ships above remained motionless, as if they were simply observing the planet's slow metamorphosis. At first, this silence was a relief. It allowed people to adapt and take in the strangeness without the pressure of an imminent threat. But as the days turned to weeks, that silence began to feel unsettling, like an unanswered question hanging in the air. Was this just a test? Or was there something more to the aliens' presence? Were they waiting for Earth to respond? And if so, how? The world's leaders, already overwhelmed by the unprecedented changes, were now faced with an even greater uncertainty. In an attempt to regain control, they began broadcasting messages into space, hoping for a response from the alien ships. They spoke of peace, of cooperation, and of a desire for communication. But the ships did not reply. There were no sudden attacks, no signs of hostility, just silence. The bombings had stopped. The world was left in a state of strange equilibrium, with the transformed cities becoming centers of curiosity and new life. But then it happened. One morning, as the sun rose over a city that had once been familiar but now felt like something out of a dream, the world's communication systems were suddenly flooded with a new message. It was not a typical broadcast. It wasn't even in a language anyone could recognize. The voice that filled the airwaves was high-pitched, musical, almost playful. It sounded as if it were coming from all directions at once, reverberating through the air like the echo of a distant chime. And yet, it was clear enough for humans to understand the intent behind the words. "We did not mean to frighten you," the voice sang, its tone oddly soothing. "We simply wished to see, to watch, to learn. You are fascinating." For the first time, Earth received a direct communication from the aliens. The voice continued, "Do not be afraid. The changes you see are tests. We wanted to know, could your species adapt? Could you learn to thrive in an environment so unlike your own? So far, we are impressed." The people of Earth listened in stunned silence, unsure of how to respond. Was this a joke, a trick, or something far more profound? The message continued, soft and melodic, as though the speaker was pleased with their own curiosity. "We see how your people have begun to adjust. The plants, the animals, the new creatures, they are all part of the transformation. Your world is not destroyed, it is evolving. And you with it. You have adapted quickly, perhaps too quickly." The voice paused for a moment, as if savoring the next words it was about to speak. "We are not here to harm you. We are here to test, to see what happens when a species is forced to face the unknown, when it must evolve or perish." The message was strange, but one thing was clear: Earth was not under attack. This wasn't a war. The aliens had not come to conquer. They had come to observe, to test, to see what would happen when humanity was thrust into the unknown. And in their eyes, humanity was passing with flying colors. For the first time since the alien ships arrived, people on Earth felt a mix of relief and confusion. The world had not been invaded by hostile forces. No, the aliens had only wanted to watch. But why? And what did it mean for Earth's future? It was then that Earth realized the truth. These aliens weren't invaders. They were observers. And they had no intention of leaving until they had seen what humanity was capable of. Days passed after the mysterious message, and while Earth's population slowly began to adjust to the idea of being observed by an unknown alien species, a new development stirred even more confusion. On a quiet morning, just as the first rays of the sun stretched over the transformed world, something else appeared. A small ship, no larger than a common city bus, descended from the vast fleet hovering in the sky. Its landing was gentle, as if it were nothing more than a feather settling to Earth. The ship's design was unlike anything humans had ever seen, organic and flowing, with smooth edges and intricate patterns that seemed to shift in the light. It landed softly in the middle of a bustling city square, where once towering skyscrapers now melted into crystalline structures. The people nearby watched in stunned silence, their eyes wide as the ship's hatch opened slowly, revealing a figure. It was unlike anything anyone had expected. The alien that stepped out of the ship was tiny, no taller than a child. Its skin was a soft lavender hue, glowing faintly in the early morning light. Its eyes, large and round, were almost comically oversized in comparison to its small frame. It moved with an odd grace, its limbs stretching and bending in ways that seemed almost fluid, as if it was more of an energy than a solid being. It wore no armor, no protective gear, and yet it seemed entirely unbothered by the changes around it. The creature's presence was undeniably peaceful. Its very appearance radiated an innocence that was hard to reconcile with the enormous ships in the sky above. It didn't appear threatening, not at all. In fact, it seemed almost curious. The small alien giggled to itself as it looked around, its laughter high-pitched and melodic. It paused, as if noticing the stunned humans standing nearby, and waved one tiny hand in greeting. The humans, still unsure whether they were witnessing something wondrous or terrifying, hesitated. They stared at the alien in awe, unsure how to react. It didn't speak at first, simply observing the surroundings with interest, turning its head this way and that as if taking in the strange new world it had arrived on. The tension in the air was palpable. Would this be another moment of strange alien behavior? Would this tiny creature suddenly declare a new wave of destruction? But no, The alien took a few more steps, then spoke, its voice sweet and laced with a strange, childlike curiosity. "Why are you so upset? Everything is so beautiful here," it said, its voice rising in pitch as it expressed genuine wonder at the world around it. The words hung in the air, baffling everyone. What did it mean? The people couldn't help but glance at each other, uncertain if this was some kind of joke or misunderstanding. The alien didn't seem threatening at all. It didn't speak like a conqueror or a scientist. It spoke like a child experiencing a new world for the first time. "I know it's different," it continued, still looking around. "But this is not an attack. It's just a test. We wanted to see what would happen when your world was changed. And look, you are already starting to adjust." The alien's tone was almost playful, filled with a wonder that seemed completely out of place amidst the ruins of the cities that had once been home to millions. It wasn't as if the transformation had left everything in shambles. Some places had been torn apart, but others had been made more beautiful, more alive, than anyone could have imagined. "We didn't come to destroy," the tiny creature continued, as though reading the thoughts of the humans around it. "We came to learn, to see if you could adapt. And you are doing so well. It's almost cute." It giggled again, the sound reverberating through the streets, a light, tinkling noise that felt almost surreal. The humans stared in disbelief. Here they were, surrounded by the ruins of a world they thought they knew, and this alien was treating it like a game. It wasn't serious, not at all. But something about the way it spoke, its innocence, its wonder, made the situation feel less like a looming disaster and more like a puzzle to solve. Maybe it wasn't a threat. Maybe it was just playing. "You'll see," the alien said, looking back at the people with its oversized eyes. "Everything will be fine. You're doing great." And with that, the tiny creature turned and walked further into the transformed city, giggling as it went. The humans, still uncertain about everything, watched it disappear into the shifting landscape, left with more questions than answers. What were they supposed to make of this alien? What kind of test was it talking about? Was it all part of some bigger plan? Or was Earth, somehow, the subject of a very strange, very unexpected game? The questions lingered in the air, unanswered. But for the first time in weeks, the people of Earth were left with a sense of curiosity rather than fear. As the tiny alien figure disappeared into the transformed city, the atmosphere shifted. The world had become a strange playground, a chaotic but beautiful blend of the familiar and the otherworldly. The people of Earth were no longer just passive observers of the transformation. They were active participants, adapting in ways that no one had imagined. What had once been viewed as a catastrophic change now felt like a challenge, an opportunity to prove something to themselves and to the alien beings above. In the weeks that followed, humans began to see the strange new world not as a threat, but as an environment ripe for reinvention. Those who had once feared the unpredictable changes now embraced them, finding creative ways to make the best of what had been given to them. The transformed cities were no longer just a backdrop to a chaotic event. They had become centers of innovation, where human ingenuity could flourish in response to the bizarre new conditions. Buildings that had once been gleaming glass towers now melded with the crystalline trees that had sprouted overnight, creating living structures that were as functional as they were beautiful. People built homes from the growing, translucent fibers of the mutated grass, weaving them into walls that shifted in color with the time of day. Public spaces became gardens of otherworldly flowers that hummed a constant, soothing melody. The floating rocks, once viewed as strange anomalies, became part of the urban transportation system, floating from one district to another, carried by a mix of human ingenuity and the alien technology now integrated into the environment. But it wasn't just the cities that had been transformed. The mutated animals that roamed the streets, beasts with feathers of gold, fish that flew through the air, and trees that grew upside down, became an integral part of everyday life. The creatures no longer struck fear into the hearts of humans. Instead, they became companions, resources, and even tools. Humans had learned to interact with the creatures, understanding that they could be used for transport, farming, and even as personal helpers. It wasn't long before scientists and engineers began to study the strange new resources that the alien bombs had brought. The so-called bombs were now seen as valuable tools. What had first appeared to be random objects falling from the sky were revealed to be advanced technology, devices capable of reshaping the very fabric of reality. Some of the world's brightest minds began to reverse engineer these objects, extracting the secrets of their power. What they discovered was nothing short of extraordinary. The technology was capable of creating matter from energy, manipulating the laws of physics in ways humanity had only dreamed of. Cities were rebuilt, not just to survive, but to thrive in this new alien ecosystem. A blend of old and new technologies emerged, where human creations and alien technology merged seamlessly. Earth's industries were reborn. Manufacturing shifted from traditional methods to the use of self-replicating organic materials, grown and harvested with the help of the very plants and animals that had once seemed so foreign. Medicine advanced in ways never before possible, as scientists unlocked the secrets of the mutations, learning to harness them for healing. The world began to change rapidly. What had once been a divided planet, struggling with war, poverty, and inequality, now began to look like something entirely new. The abundance created by the transformed environment allowed for the eradication of hunger in many regions, and the strange new creatures and plants provided resources in ways humanity had never expected. Energy was abundant, and for the first time in history, humans had the means to explore the stars. Not because they had been invited, but because they had proven themselves capable of overcoming the unimaginable. As humans adapted, the alien ships above continued to observe, their presence never far from Earth's awareness. But the people of Earth no longer looked up in fear. They looked up with pride, knowing that they had passed the test. The challenge had been daunting, but humanity had not only survived, it had thrived. They had learned to use what they were given, transforming what seemed like a curse into a blessing. Yet even as Earth reached new heights, the question lingered: what would the aliens think now? Would they see humanity as worthy of their offer, or would they continue to observe from above, unsure of whether Earth was truly ready for the next step? The world waited, uncertain but hopeful, knowing one thing for sure: whatever the aliens had planned, humanity had already proven it could face the unknown and come out stronger for it. As humanity flourished in the wake of the alien intervention, the world's collective attention turned once more to the sky. The ships still hovered overhead, observing the ongoing transformation of Earth. But now, there was no fear, no tension in the air. People had adapted, integrated the bizarre, and made the world their own. The once overwhelming presence of the alien fleet had faded into the background, becoming a quiet, ever-watchful companion. But despite the calm, something was stirring. In cities that had once been riddled with chaos and uncertainty, there was a growing sense of anticipation. Humans had proved themselves resilient, creative, and resourceful. They had not just survived, they had thrived. And yet there remained a question that lingered in the minds of every Earthling. Why had the aliens come? What did they want from Earth? What was this test, and where would it lead? Then, one day, the answer arrived. The sky above Earth began to change once more, but this time, it wasn't the strange lights or the appearance of new objects. This time, the alien ships finally responded. They released a single vessel, much larger than the one that had landed before. It descended slowly, gently, until it touched down in a vast field where once an industrial complex had stood. The people of Earth, who had grown accustomed to the alien presence, gathered to witness what was coming next. Their curiosity piqued, but no longer tinged with fear. As the craft landed, a ramp lowered from its belly, and out stepped the same tiny alien figure that had previously wandered among the ruins. But this time, the creature was not alone. It was flanked by several others, each one identical to the first. They floated, almost gliding, as if gravity had little sway over them. Their large eyes glimmered with curiosity and intelligence, and their playful demeanor was now tempered by a more serious air. The crowd fell silent as the lead alien approached. It wasn't the giggling, wide-eyed creature from before, but something more composed, more deliberate. The voice that emerged was still melodic, but its tone was now filled with authority. "You have done well," it began, speaking directly to the people gathered before it. "You have impressed us, not with your technology, but with your ability to adapt, to learn, to change. You have faced an overwhelming challenge, and you have risen to meet it with creativity and resilience. In this, you have proven that you are ready." The humans stood still, each of them listening closely, as if bracing themselves for what was to come. The aliens' words hung in the air, thick with meaning. The aliens had been testing Earth's ability to evolve, to face challenges that were beyond their comprehension, to see if humanity had the capacity to adapt to an unpredictable universe. And now, it seemed, Earth had passed. "You may wonder," the alien continued, "why we have come. We are not here to destroy. We are not here to conquer. We are here to observe, to learn, and to find those who are worthy of joining the larger community of civilizations in the universe. And Earth has shown itself worthy." The people exchanged glances, each one processing the weight of the words. They had thought the alien arrival was an invasion, a disaster, or perhaps a warning. But it was none of those things. It was an invitation. "Your world is on the edge of something great," the alien said. "And we have watched as you have risen, as you have embraced the unknown and made it your own. This is the test we set before you, to see if your species could overcome the trials we placed before you. And you have done so with grace and determination." The alien paused, its large eyes scanning the crowd. "You may now join us. You may become part of the Interstellar Alliance, share in the knowledge of countless civilizations. But this is your choice. We will not force you. The decision is yours." Earth. For a moment, there was a profound silence. The enormity of the offer seemed impossible to grasp. To join a galactic alliance, to share in the knowledge and discoveries of countless other species. Earth was being invited into a new chapter, one that would change the course of its history forever. But despite the excitement that buzzed through the crowd, there was also hesitation. Earth had never been part of anything larger than itself. The idea of joining a galactic community, of becoming part of something so vast and unknown, was a daunting prospect. Would they lose their identity? Would they be forced to conform? Would they still be Earth? The aliens, sensing the hesitation, smiled gently. "We are not here to change you," they assured. "We are here to offer you the chance to grow alongside us. But how you grow, and where you go, is entirely up to you." The choice was now in the hands of Earth. Would they join the stars, or would they continue to carve their own path, still unsure of what lay beyond the horizon? The world held its breath, waiting for the answer to unfold. The decision hung heavy in the air, as if the very atmosphere had shifted. The words of the alien, the invitation to join an interstellar alliance, resonated in the hearts and minds of every person who had witnessed it. Some felt excitement bubbling within them, the prospect of exploring the cosmos, of being part of something far greater than Earth. Exhilarating. Others, however, were filled with uncertainty. Could they truly become part of this larger galactic community, or would they lose something essential in the process? What would joining such an alliance mean for the future of Earth? Would they still be human, still have the world they knew? The alien stood before them, waiting. The small creature that had once wandered through the transformed cities now stood tall, not in size, but in the confidence it projected. The others beside it shared the same calm, patient demeanor, their eyes glowing with the same curiosity, the same reverence for humanity's resilience. They had done their part, watched, tested, observed, and now the ball was in Earth's court. The decision, the future, was theirs to shape. A murmur swept through the crowd. Some people whispered excitedly to one another, their faces lit with hope. They imagined the possibilities. New technologies, new ways of life, the ability to understand the universe on a level they had never dreamed of. Their children would live among the stars, perhaps even travel to other worlds, meeting new species, learning from civilizations that had existed for millennia. But others stood in quiet contemplation, their eyes clouded with doubt. Could they maintain their identity, their sovereignty, while joining a vast interstellar network? Would they become just another cog in the machine, their culture subsumed by the pressure of conformity? The leader of the alien delegation noticed the conflicting emotions in the crowd, their uncertain glances, their internal struggles. It seemed they were not yet ready to make a decision. The alien spoke softly, its voice no longer playful but serious, as if sensing the weight of the moment. "We understand your hesitation," it said. "This is not an easy choice. To join us, to take that step into the greater cosmos, means change, and change can be frightening. But remember this, Earth has already begun its journey. The transformations you see are not just physical, they are part of something deeper, something you have started to embrace. You have proven your resilience, your capacity to adapt, and we do not seek to take that from you. But we can offer you a future beyond anything your species has yet imagined." The words resonated with many, yet there was still something intangible in the air, an unspoken question. Earth was not ready to surrender its autonomy, to give up the essence of what made them who they were. They had spent centuries building their own future, shaping their own path. The invitation felt both thrilling and terrifying, like stepping into an unknown that could either be liberating or consuming. A voice from the crowd broke the silence, a question that seemed to echo through the vast space between the alien delegation and the people of Earth. "What happens if we say no? Will you leave us to our own devices?" The alien leader's large eyes softened, and it gave a small, reassuring smile. "If you say no, we will not force you. Your planet will remain yours. We will leave, and you may continue to grow on your own. There is no punishment, no consequence for making your own choice. But know this, the invitation will remain. Should you ever change your mind, we will be here." The words were not threatening, but their weight was undeniable. The aliens had not come to conquer, to impose, or to rule. They had come to offer humanity a chance to rise even further, to become something greater than itself. But it was a choice that would define the path of Earth forever. Another murmur rippled through the crowd. People spoke in hushed tones, some nodding in agreement, others still unsure. Leaders, scientists, philosophers, and regular citizens all wrestled with the magnitude of the decision. And slowly the debate began to form. The leaders of Earth, those chosen to speak for the planet, stepped forward, their faces a mixture of resolve and hesitation. They knew this was no ordinary moment in history. This was the turning point of a civilization. As the debate continued, the alien delegation remained still, patient, knowing that this decision, this moment of choice, could not be rushed. Earth had proven its worth, its ingenuity, and its spirit. But what would it decide now? The hours passed, and the crowd gathered in a restless silence. As the world waited for Earth's response, the alien delegation stood still, watching but unhurried, their quiet confidence a stark contrast to the whirlwind of thoughts and emotions that swirled among the people. The leaders, those chosen to speak for humanity, huddled in small groups, debating the fate of their world with the kind of intensity that only a decision of this magnitude could inspire. For some, the choice was clear. The opportunity to join the stars, to explore the vast unknown, to share in the wisdom of ancient civilizations. This was a chance that could not be passed up. Earth had already been changed in ways unimaginable, and joining the interstellar community could only mean more growth, more opportunity, more progress. The advanced technologies they had unlocked, the new resources they had discovered, all seemed to point toward a future that would thrive under the guidance of the Galactic Alliance. But for others, the question was not so simple. What would Earth lose in the process? Could they maintain their sovereignty, Their unique identity, if they entered a system so vast, so intricate, that it could easily overshadow their small planet. What would it mean for their cultures, their traditions, their way of life? Would humanity's voice get lost in the roar of 1,000 other worlds, each with its own way of doing things? The debate raged on, but as the sun set, casting a golden glow across the transformed landscape, something shifted. The words of the alien delegation began to resonate with a growing sense of clarity. The invitation was not one of imposition, but one of partnership. The aliens had not come to change Earth, but to help humanity see what it was capable of. The transformations, the trials, the strange gifts they had given, these were all ways of helping humanity unlock its full potential. And it was that potential, that spark of possibility, that made the decision clear. Finally, the leaders of Earth stood together, their faces a mixture of resolve and hope. The leader of the United Earth Council, a woman who had once doubted the very possibility of interstellar contact, stepped forward, her voice steady but filled with emotion. She addressed both the alien delegation and the people of Earth who had gathered in awe. "We have looked inward," she said, her voice carrying across the crowd, "and we have seen how far we have come. We have risen from the ashes of chaos and uncertainty. We have learned to adapt, to change, and to embrace the unknown. And now we are ready to take the next step, not just as Earth, but as a united species. We choose to join you, not as subjugated beings, but as equals, as partners." A hush fell over the crowd. The alien delegation remained still, their eyes filled with approval. Then the tiny leader nodded, a smile spreading across its face. It had been a long, quiet wait, but it was clear now that humanity had made its choice. The offer had been accepted. "We are pleased," the alien said softly. "You have proven yourselves. You are ready." The people erupted into a chorus of cheers, a collective outpouring of emotion that filled the air. It was not just the relief of choosing a path, but the exhilaration of knowing that Earth had passed the test, not just of survival, but of vision. They had not only adapted, they had evolved. They were ready for something greater. And with that, the sky above Earth seemed to shimmer, as if the universe itself had just exhaled. The alien ships that had hovered silently above now began to move, not threateningly, but as a signal, a welcoming gesture. Slowly, ships descended from the sky, each one a symbol of a new partnership, a new future. For the first time in history, Earth stood on the brink of something incredible. No longer just a small blue planet in the vastness of space, it was now part of something far greater. And as humanity looked up into the stars, they understood the truth. This was not the end of their journey, but the beginning. The dawn of a new era had arrived, one that promised not just survival, but the kind of growth and unity that would change the course of human history forever. And the universe was watching, eager to see what Earth would do next.